seen very little of him of late. My marriage had drifted us away from each other. He did, however, remain in our lodgings on Baker Street, buried among his old books, alternating between cocaine and depression. I assumed that he was still deeply interested in the study of crime and clearing up those mysteries which had abandoned as hopeless by Scotland Yard. He was without doubt the most perfect reasoning and observing machine the world had ever seen. He was, after all, Sherlock Holmes. It was with the most severe concern that I did receive a disturbing letter on the 6th of May, 1914, from my former landlady, Mrs. Hudson, regarding my friend, Sherlock Holmes. When I arrived at our old lodgings at 221B Baker Street, I found Holmes in a state that I could only describe as despondent.
I am despondent, Watson.
His very words.
Despondent, despairing, devoid of hope, ambition, expectation, joy. Looking for the needle, don't bother, and not mercy the 7% solution. If that's what you imagine is the cause of my painful eyes.
What then? Did the case go wrong? You brought the boy of a strangler to justice 2 months past.
Yes, he hangs the day after tomorrow.
Well, then all you need is a nice strangler or poisoner to come along. You know what you say? Give me problems. Give me work.
Give me the most abstruse, cryptogram, the most intricate analysis. Yes, I remember you put that down for dubious posterity. It wasn't that I lacked for work, but it presented with any number of cases not worth rising from my stupor. I don't crave travel. I beg everywhere in the world. And I can assure you I most certainly do not need another flatmate. Living with other people is hell.
Holmes, have you bathed recently?
The body is designed for decay, Watson. There is no reason to hinder the natural process.
No reason to hasten it either. Yeah, I know. Look at me. Look at my clothes, my shoes, my hands. Where have I been today?
Oh, Watson.
Come, you do it all the time. When we first met, remember the first thing you said to me? It was?
You have been in Afghanistan, I presume.
And how did you know I'd been in Afghanistan? You said I was a medical type, but with a military air. Ergo, an army doctor. My face was dark, but my hands were light, indicating that I'd been in the tropics. My arm held stiff, indicative of a wound. So, where would an English army doctor that's been in the tropics get his arm wounded?
Wales.
Holmes, really?
All right. You come from your tailor, you do at the hospital, you forgot your watch, and you're late for an appointment.
Recalled to life? And how did you know all this?
Because when you arrived here, you said, I've come from my tailor, I'm due at the hospital, I forgot my watch, and I'm late for an appointment.
Oh. Right. I forgot. Holmes, do you know what my diagnosis is? You are suffering from the modern age, the 20th century and all of its attendant anxieties. Pick up any newspaper and you'll see despair, agony, from the Balkans to Cairo. And Holmes, it would drive any man without an iron constitution into the depths of despair.
Thank you, Watson. That's just cheered me to no end. I'm sure this conversation is keeping you from your hospital rounds.
Right. You should be getting on with that. Shall I have Mrs. Hudson bring you up some tea?
No. Watson, shut the door when you go, all the way. Sometimes a bit of outside light ruffles the darkness.
I left our former lodgings, as Holmes suggested, but I did not go on my rounds. Instead, I stayed below and looked up at that house that we two had shared for so many years, when suddenly the door came open and Holmes came out of it with a haunted look in his eyes. Employing the methods that he taught me, I followed him to Soho, where I saw him enter an oyster house, but not the sort of house where one buys oysters. I stayed at those grease-smeared windows for many moments, watching him, when I suddenly realized if he really would not welcome my skullduggery. So, I went home. He would be fine. He was Sherlock Holmes.
Good sir, might I interest you in a cream tart?
I beg your pardon.
I said, would you like a cream tart? I can attest to the quality of the pastry, having eaten 3 dozen myself thus far. If you do not partake, I shall be forced to eat my 37th.
Delicious.
Sir, you're a connoisseur. So discerning a palate inspires me to share a confidence. I name I shall keep to myself, but I will let slip that I come from wealth, though not nobility, that I have been expensively, albeit pointlessly, educated in, that my avocation postgraduate has been a fruitless attempt to escape to a self-imposed Mount Severon. Then, last November, I watched a man's heart give out and received from him the curse I had dreaded since attaining my majority. Since then, I have devoted my evening hours to gorging myself on those cream-filled trifles. They are a gross indulgence, but they symbolize my abhorrence of the sober legacy thrust upon my narrow frame and procure me the acquaintance of gentlemen such as yourself, which lends the terminal nature of this evening its saving grace.
May I make 3 observations?
Please, make as many as you like.
First, that the man who died last November was closer to you than you wish to admit. 2, that the curse which you so abhorred will be a welcome blessing to most of your fellow beings. And 3, that you need to take your own life.
You're a mind reader.
Merely an observer. You're speaking of Mount Cithron, where Oedipus was exiled by King Laius, then need to surmise that the man who died was your father. Attaining one's majority refers to the age at which one may legally inherit. And as for your reference to terminal evenings, well, that's rather self-explanatory, isn't it? Although the odds of 2 strangers meeting by chance in so large a wilderness as London, only to discover that they share the same...
Wait! You mean to say you too are? Tell me, sir, how have you decided to alleviate your situation?
The particulars elude me, but I may see death and beard him where he lies.
Sir, a stroke of fortune has brought us together. I know the location of a private door that will usher you into eternity with neither ceremony nor scandal.
How was this accomplished?
You have £40?
£40?
For the entrance fee. Sir, we live today in an age of convenience. The convenience of conveyance, of communication. Every problematic detail of life has been solved, save one. A means of quitting the stage with ease. Following the death of that aforementioned gentleman last November, I purchased this pistol, so that I might put an end to my existence. I loaded it, placed the barrel against my temple, and could not pull the trigger. I keep this on my person at all times, unloaded, as a reminder of my cowardice. It was for such weak souls as I that the Suicide Club was founded.
Suicide Club.
If you are truly tired of this life, I can escort you tonight to a meeting of this august body.
Lead on.
Behold, the club foyer. Now, wait here while I arrange your introduction. No one gets in without a thorough vetting, so be frank in your answers. Club secretary, the gentleman of whom I spoke.
You met our esteemed friend earlier this evening, I understand?
Yes, and when I explained my own desires, what did I discover but that we shared identical longings?
And these longings led you to inquire if you might...
Become a member of the Suicide Club.
Is this meant to be a joke? Sir, this is a charitable organization, nothing more. I bid you good day.
Madam, this gentleman has doubtless informed you of my intention to do away with myself. As someone in my circumstances has little reason to restrain his violent behavior, I am unlikely to tolerate much in the way of bluff or delay. Now indulge me in this matter, or you will bitterly regret my having gained admittance even this far.
What has prompted this decision to embrace death?
My life as I have lived it. I once allowed that I was a brain and nothing more. It's not entirely true, but it was the area which I took my greatest, if not sole, satisfaction. Now, I am at a point at which my intellectual deterioration, though not as advanced as some, is nonetheless degraded. The speed with which I grasp a problem and tease it till the tongue does click is slowed measurably. Mechanisms begin to catch. Halt. I will not embark on a second childhood. My first was unendurable.
These are passing moods.
I know what passes for a passing mood. This is here to stay.
Why have you not taken steps to remedy it?
I have. I am here.
Have you a card? Mr. Holmes. Typically, the club's practice is to make discreet inquiries as to ensure that applicants' professed intentions are real. But when a person such as yourself makes himself known, I would rather strain the regulations than deny him. But I warn you, once accepted into membership, you must adhere to the rules of the club without question. Cross this threshold, and there is no return.
It is that which I so devoutly wish.
Very well then. Inside the club you shall be known as Mr. Edwards. You will not make mention of your identity, occupation, or place of residence in the outer world. Any and all hints will constitute grounds for immediate termination, with all finality therein implied. Do you understand?
Very clearly outlined, Club Secretary.
There is one more matter. The fee.
Oh, yes. £40. What does it go towards? General expenses?
Champagne. We find that it elevates the mood of what could be too solemn a ritual. Gentlemen, our newest member, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, Mr. Henry,
How do you do, sir?
Mr. Richards, Mr. Charles,
Pleased to be meeting with you.
Mr. George,
Good evening.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, we met before.
Mr. Williams, club rules.
Yes. Why? Sorry. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, Mr. Henry, Mr. Richards, Mr. Charles, Mr. George. I think that's everyone.
I leave you all to become better acquainted.
It's overwhelming, isn't it?
It is rather a lot to take in.
Ah, you Jimmy Green now. We're talking to see you soon.
Is this a full meeting?
Oh, yes.
The membership list must be a short one.
The numbers vary for the reasons one would suspect.
I take it the club keeps no records.
None, which in a different sort of establishment would be a serious fault. But here it reserves the anonymity essential to explore honestly the nature of our endeavor.
That being,
Death. In the course of a meeting, one member may attest that what he seeks from death is blackness, the cessation, oblivion. Another may counsel that his demise is but a portal through which he shall scale the heavens to embrace a loving God.
Debates alone are worth the price of admission.
I would not have sought admission had I not come to believe in the theories of your Mr. Charles Darwin. I cannot stand the knowledge I am descended from the ape.
and for this reason you seek death.
That in the sport,
Mr. George jests.
I am known for my humor.
You see, Mr. Edwards, in this club, an act that in other circumstances might be considered ugly and depressing is instead fine and noble, exciting. The world outside these walls may be marching blindly towards its destruction, but here in this club, among our fellow spirits, the final journey is akin to grace.
Such an uplifting establishment might almost give one reason to live.
Actually, no.
How long have you been attending these meetings, Mr. Richards?
6 months. 5 months, me. Must be coming on a year since I first walked through those doors.
A year?
My luck has been extraordinarily poor.
What part does luck play?
It is luck that selects the victim of the evening.
Not just the victim, there's also the member selected to carry out the deed.
The hand that strikes and does not falter, Mr. Edwards.
You mean to say you kill each other?
We call it suicide by second party.
A method of dispatch is always arranged so as to give you an answer.
Excellency, fewer questions.
Is it not an elegant solution? Any of us might be chosen this evening as either the slayer or the slain.
It combines the suspense of the gaming table with the bravado of its duel. Only a Christian nation could conceive it.
Gentlemen, please gather. Whenever there is a new member, we make a toast. To the Suicide Club.
The
Suicide Club.
Gentlemen, do take your assigned seats. Mr. Edwards, your hand, please. The founding members of this club understood that while it is surpassingly brave to take leave of one's life, one is oft restrained by the messy practicalities. So they devised a game. Billiards, all of them white. I placed the 5 white billiards into the hat. One black billiard. I place it into the hat. Each member will move a billiard until the black has been selected. He who has the black billiard shall then excuse himself. Is this understood?
Yes.
Let us begin.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Gentlemen, it has been a privilege.
We'll be seeing you again,
Put in a good word for me, would you?
Second round, gentlemen. I now place 4 white billiards into the hat. 1 red billiard into the hat. When the hat is passed this time, you will not make look at your selection until you have left the premises. He who finds in his hand the red billiard shall act as this evening's executioner. Once the deed is done, both the red and the black billiard shall be returned to the silver tray. Is this understood?
Very
No,
nice.
sir.
Let us begin.
Sojourners.
One of you now holds the red billiard. You will follow Mr. Richards into the night and relieve his suffering. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I do so motion.
Club secretary, I would like to request the honor of being this evening's executioner.
You wish to kill Mr. Richards?
What a sweet gesture.
Unfortunately, there is no deviation from club rules. Ayes in favor of adjournment.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Mr. Edwards, your offer displays a very go-ahead set of mind. But that is not how things are done. Besides, Mr. Richards is long gone. You have no chance of catching up to him now.
I had not seen Holmes all that week. News of tensions on the continent had excited my poor wife's nerves to such a state that I had to persuade her to take her year-end walking tour of the Lake District with her cousin. But come Saturday morning, I escorted Mrs. Watson to Euston Street Station, bid her a semi-tearful farewell, and then hurried on to Baker Street.
I'm not certain he's up as yet. He didn't come home until all hours.
Where was he?
I'm sure I don't know. All I can say is he went off at 9 o'clock last evening, and he plans to do the same tonight.
Oh, Watson. Good to see you. Your good lady wife here. From Euston Street.
Really? What makes you think that?
You think your challenge to my deductive powers will stimulate a surge of adrenal firings, result which will be an elevation of my mood. I shan't indulge you. Making Mrs. Hudson, you may go. I apologize for my haste, Watson, but I fear I'm already late.
Where are you off to then? Soho? You disappear all night, you shut yourself in here all day. Blinds shut, curtains drawn. Holmes, I must tell you, in my professional capacity, I have seen too many men succumb to the very despair that you seem to embrace. And let me tell you, what remains is not a pretty visage.
You're in a mordid mood.
I am. Yes. Last night I was called to the scene of an accident. When I saw the mangled form, I realized it was a man I knew and respected.
Are you at liberty to reveal his identity?
Sir Miles Messervy.
Admiral Messervy?
He was crushed beneath the 1105 Tomorrow. It was surmised that he slipped or fell onto the tracks. But anyone that knew him knew that he was inconsolable 6 months ago from the death of his wife. Did you know the Admiral Holmes?
Not by sight, unfortunately.
Holmes, my wife is away till the first of the month. I could have my things sent over and we could bill it in our old rooms like the old days.
Watson, these are not our rooms. You have no claim upon them or me.
Mr. Holmes, there's a gentleman to see you.
Watson, you really must leave now.
Not until you explain to me what is going on. Don't you see, I want this to end.
Watson, I too want this to end. Do not force me to abandon the last of my feelings for you. Did he see you?
Niente.
I apologize for what you overheard of that scene, but my vehemence was necessary. The seed has been planted and suspicions taken root. Dr. Watson suspects now more than ever of my suicidal intention. Did you do as I instructed?
I took every precaution.
No one followed you.
I am certain. Now, was the club as I did describe it to you?
To the T. I can well understand why you sought me out.
I did not want to.
Then why did you? When I agreed to take your case, all you told me was that you got mixed up in something called the Suicide Club, and that I could gain admittance to this exclusive establishment by means of an accommodating gentleman known to frequent a certain oyster bar in Soho. Once this was accomplished, all my questions would be answered. But all I know for certain is that your name is no more Mr. Charles than mine is Mr. Edwards. Perhaps we can start with that.
My name is Nikita Starlov. I am Russian. I came to England 6 months ago to marry my fiancée, but before the date was set, she passed. I was distraught, in despair, despondent. Then one day, I received a note to meet an acquaintance at Zack Oyster Bar. I went there, but my acquaintance did not appear. I was about to leave when it did enter this man of the cream tarts, and before I knew it, he had
Confided in you his intention to end his own life.
Ah,
So determined is he to do so that he has not been able to accomplish this task in almost a year. Mr. Williams is the mercy of an extraordinarily bad streak of luck that it confounds the law of averages. When was this meeting?
almost 3 months ago.
And you have attended each meeting of the Suicide Club since and survived?
Ah,
You are almost as unlucky as our judgment of the cream tarts.
but that is just it, Mr. Holmes. I do not wish to die. Each time the club meets, I am more and more relieved that it is not I who receives the black billiard, but I fear my time is soon.
And in order to effect your demise, you join the club, the resignation from which assures it of your closed system. Why haven't you gone to the police?
That is out of the question.
Why? Is it because you facilitated the demise of one or more of the club's members?
No, I have never received a red billiard.
Another rebuke to the law of averages.
Mr. Holmes, if you are going to continue your investigation into this matter, I must have your word that you will not involve the police.
I haven't yet decided if I'm going to continue my investigation. Does the club stand to benefit when a member dies? Insurance policies, inheritance?
The only thing the club stands to gain is the £40 entrance fee.
The men who have died since you joined, do you remember the names?
Only the ones used at the club: Mr. Edgar, Mr. Alfred, Mr. Phillips, Mr. James, Mr. Arthur, and Mr. Oliver. The names, I believe, of your English monarchs.
Yes, I caught on to that. Though you get in arguments regarding King Oliver. Do you remember any personal details you gleaned from conversations with them?
Only we are instructed to avoid any discussion which might reveal one's identity outside the club, as you did witness at your first meeting.
Yes, but even so, it's obvious that Mr. Williams lost a father from whom he was estranged. Mr. George scratched Heidelberg. Mr. Richards was until recently a naval officer. And then there's you.
What have you learned about me that I have not already told you?
The reason you no longer wish to die. A woman.
How did you know?
She's been waiting in a cab below for 15 minutes. And she's just now about to arrive upon the landing.
My love.
Ah, Alice Daride. Enchanté de faire votre connaissance.
Did Nicholas tell you I was French?
No, but trust me, you are. You're quite bleu, get you away.
My umbrella.
Fashioned by Madame Sabienne in a delightful shop in the Boulevard Saint-Germain. The spring's model. Madame Sabienne sold everyone the very first day.
With so much evidence, I had best confess. I am French.
Even if I had nothing else to go on, there's still your pendant, carved in the shape of La Basilique de Sacré-Cœur at Rouen. Carved ivory?
No, is it Swiss?
Boom.
Is it too exotic?
Not on you.
Mr. Holmes, may I introduce to you Madame de Gassier? It was at this good lady's insistence that I came to you. Just when I thought there was no hope for me, I met her.
Met her?
Highgate Cemetery. My husband's headstone is close to
To where my fiancée is buried.
Nicholas visits her there every Sunday without fail.
It had been raining. I noticed a woman without an umbrella. I offered her mine. We waited under it until the rain stopped. Madame de Gassier saved my life that day and gave me reason to live.
Only by that time you have joined the Suicide Club, from whose roles no member resigns.
That is why I insisted he come to you, Monsieur Holmes. Will you help?
Mr. Holmes has not yet decided to take in my case.
But why?
Madame, I consented to infiltrate the suicide club and gain access to its ranks one time. In short, it's a singular organization. But I was not yet convinced that anyone had actually died as a result thereof. I believed it would all turn out to be an elaborate hoax until just minutes ago.
Why?
A friend shared his grief over an elderly sailor. Mr. Starloff, where are you staying in London?
At the Savoy?
And you, Madame de la Gracière?
Also the Savoy.
On different floors, of course.
Yes, of course.
So, Mr. Holmes, what is your decision?
Will you attend tonight's meeting?
You must be better prepared than I was last night. Last night, I was quick enough out the door to prevent a man from perishing. He searched the city till dawn, but was unable to prevent his murder.
Murder?
Surely you mean suicide?
I seldom confuse the two.
Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Mr. Edwards.
Ah, let me help you with that, Mr. Henry. You wouldn't want to get the blanket caught in the spokes.
Thank you. Such a servant. Would that I could manage like the rest of you.
You do rather well, I think. Don't you think, Mr. Edwards?
Oh, yes. Although I do wonder what will happen when it's your turn to be chosen. Not as a fortunate victim of the evening, but rather as an executioner.
Can't tell you that. What if I have the honor of being your executioner? Do you know how to defend yourself?
Why would I defend myself?
The answer to that has been explained by your Mr. Charles Darwin. Survival. Survival is in our blood. If a member chosen to be executed has a failure of nerve, his execution takes on the aspect of a hunt. Poets say love is the greatest passion. Not, it is fear. Fear is the thing. Embrace that and you will taste the most intense joy of your life.
What a repellent philosophy.
Mr. Charles, you are too squeamish. Surely you have indulged in the blood sports.
Man should not hunt man.
Some men should, and some men are not men.
You get excited by the smell of blood, don't you?
What I smell now is cowardice.
Sir, I would call you out. I would challenge you to a duel.
Shall we say Hyde Park, pistols at the dawn?
Gentlemen, such a display. If either of you had witnessed what I have of man's capacity for destruction, death and madness, broken bodies, broken spirits.
I will not again listen to this lecture on the horrors of war.
Mr. George, personal preferences aside, would not our hunt be an art for the club's purpose, given that our deaths are supposed to appear accidental?
The execution, even of the unwilling, could be carried out with subtlety, as we here know.
Yes. Do you recall a case some 6 months past of a gentleman who was accidentally poisoned in a chemist shop?
This man was a member of...
Mr. Williams, club rules.
It would not be wise to say yes, but...
Gentlemen, may we begin?
Yes, I have an assignation with a young lady tonight. I do not wish to be late to taste of her charms.
This gentleman you spoke of, Mr.
Phillips was his name again. Picked the black billiard, went on the run, got hunted down that same night.
How could he be hunted down and yet die from accidental poisoning?
Haven't a clue. Of course, the season may have had something to do with it. I remember thinking how poignant it must be to die on Christmas Eve.
The meeting is called to order.
Good.
Good command.
Congratulations, Mr. George.
been a mistake.
I beg your pardon.
There has been a mistake. We must pass the hat again.
You mean to say you're going to renege?
No, I do not renege. I simply say we must pass the hat again.
Mr. George, you know that is not possible.
Of course it is. Who here would not want a second chance to be the one chosen?
Oh, that I can take your place.
But you can't. If Mr. Henry wants to take my place, I will not stay.
Mr. George, must I remind you, if a member does not obey club rules, he shall be considered at large.
No, Club Secretary. Forgive me, General. My behavior is not to the standards of this esteemed club. Mr. Charles, I hope it is you who receives the red billion.
As do I.
Second round, gentlemen. Possesses the red billion. You will follow Mr. George into the night to relieve his suffering. No offer this evening, Mr. Edwards.
No, Club Secretary, unless it is to move we adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Did you get the bread?
Niet.
Then go.
Were you able to follow him?
No, Mr. George has the advantage of fear. He is running for his life.
Alan Ducks wants a lifelong friend for 5 minutes.
It's all right, Mrs. O'Malley. Come forth. Miss O'Malley runs an establishment on the West End and employs 24 young ladies who's been kind enough to put them at our disposal this evening.
Para out today, Mr. Holmes.
24 women from one house?
Yes, and think of the disappointed men throughout the city this evening. Did you do as we discussed?
Yes, sir, Mr. Holmes. 2 on the first fella, out the door.
Mr. George?
And 2 on the second fella, cake covered with chocolates and such.
Powdered sugar, Mr. Williams.
And 2 on the third, an elderly bloke in a wheelchair.
Mr. Henry.
And 2 on this.
What?
Merely a formality. The first gentleman, Mr. George. Where did he go?
Fast walker, I had 2 best girls on all the way down Charing Cross and Regent Street, all the way down Carlton Terrace, which is where they lost him.
How is this possible?
You know how we follow on. We have one girl on one side of the street, and the other on the other. The closest takes the lead. Well, both me girls thought they were in the lead. They both swore on a step they saw the other girl with. So they both stopped back. Next thing you know, he was around the corner and gone.
Your report, please, Mrs. O'Malley. Thank you. You may relieve your ladies, Mrs. O'Malley.
So tonight has been a failure?
The night is young.
I'm coming, Mr. Holmes. I'm coming. Yes, please come in. Were you able to sleep after our adventures of last night?
I never sleep during a case. Forthwith, the results of my endeavors. Mr. O'Malley's ladies followed Mr. Williams to the Rail Hotel at Paddington, where a few well-placed questions shows that our gentleman with the cream task is registered there in the name of G. Edgerton, leading me to believe he is the Honourable Gerald Edgerton, son of the late Lord Edgerton, who died last November, leaving his sole offspring heir to the largest newspaper chain in the world. Mr. Henry was taken by private coach to Thurlow Square to a private hospital, where a quick glance at the bell plate reveals it to be the Sir Francis Rees Hospital for Crippled War Veterans. Sir Francis was an army doctor wounded by a sniper's bullet during the Boer War, and he spent the last 15 years spending his considerable fortune in support of various pacifist organizations while enduring not a single day's respite from excruciating pain. But it is Mr. George's whereabouts which most fascinate. Mrs. O'Malley's ladies reported that they lost Mr. George when he turned the corner into Carlton Terrace. Carlton Terrace is a short street of large, albeit unremarkable buildings, the most famous of which is number 9, the Embassy of the German Empire.
You said once that Mr. George was a graduate of
Heidelberg, yes. His face bears the kind of scar one associates with the fencing societies there. Mr. George clearly wishes to be seen as a man who hunts, duels, and possesses nerves of steel. As we saw last night, though, that last attribute was demonstrably untrue.
Why then did Mr. George join the suicide club?
Not for the same reason as the rest of you. He said at that first meeting, he joined for the sport.
Oh, my love.
I see you're up at last.
Oh, Madame de la Bagassier just happened to be here.
Yes. Mrs. Starloff, I asked the front desk to keep an eye out for the delivery I'm expecting, but my request seemed to irritate them.
I will call down at once.
May I suggest a personal entreaty? So much more intimidating.
Of course.
Would you like a copy, Monsieur Holmes?
No, thank you. I've already had mine. My day started quite early with an exceedingly puzzling visit.
Where was this visit?
Highgate Cemetery. I was able to locate the graves of the late Monsieur de la Bagassier, as well as that of Mr. Starloff's unfortunate fiancée. However, a perusal of the burial records revealed a discrepancy. According to the registry, your husband died a bachelor.
Is this why you sent Nicholas on that errand?
I thought you might appreciate a chance to reconcile the discrepancy before he returned.
I married Monsieur de la Bagassier when I was very young. It was a mistake. We divorced. Then in the spring, my former husband sought me out. He was ill, yet no one else in the world to care for him. So, I did. I used the name de la Bagassier to make it easier to make final arrangements. But when it came time to sign the burial register, I set down the truth.
So you were not a widow, but a divorcee. Does Nicholas know?
Oui.
Then why pretend otherwise for my benefit?
It is not for your benefit alone, Monsieur Holmes. Yet the Nicholas not tell him why he could not go to the police.
He gave no reason.
His full name is Prince Nikita Sergeyevich Starlock of the Russian Imperial family. If he were to go to the police, the Tsar spies would soon know it.
And if the Tsar were to discover that his beloved Prince Nikita had done something so rash as to join the suicide club?
He would be ordered back to Russia, or be forcibly taken.
Given the circumstances, would not the sensible course of action be to return to Russia? With you, of course, as in... No, of course not. That cannot be, because of your divorce.
It does not matter to Nicholas,
But the Russian imperial family will never permit Prince Nikita Starloff to marry a divorcee.
Please, Monsieur Holmes, you mustn't tell anyone what I told you. Promise me. Please.
The desk clerk requests that you return the papers in the condition in which you find them.
I promise.
What are you looking for?
Last night, Mr. Williams mentioned a club member, Mr. Phillips, who died 6 months ago of an accidental asphyxiation at a chemist shop. Apparently, Mr. Phillips' demise is a textbook example of a member gone on the run. Aha! Christmas has come again. A.C. Cross expired as the result of an accidental chemical combustion at J. Rowney and Son Chemist on December 24th. Prior to his demise, the deceased was attached to the Foreign Office and posted to various European capitals as a cultural attaché. How very odd.
What the?
His occupation.
What is odd about the cultural attaché?
There's no such thing.
Charlie, don't put that. Just go home, Charlie. Well, monograph in the Journal of the World Chemistry Society. This is quite flattering, Mr.
Trott. Hezekiah Trott. I'm doing a piece on the unintended consequences of unintended chemical reactions. I can find your shot as the result of an obituary in the Daily Telegraph.
Ah, yes, the Christmas gentleman. That was a bit evident with the chemical reaction.
Is it too horrid to recall?
Not at all. I was standing right here, near the closing, with unconscious gentleman, very urgent, and out of breath with a prescription to fill. I turned around and handed it to my assistant, but suddenly there's this crash. The gentleman had jostled 2 bottles off the shelf.
You saw him do this?
By the time the fumes dissipated, the gentleman had already succumbed. Fortunately, he was the only one who did.
There were other people in the shop at the time?
A woman, yes, and my assistant.
What were the 2 chemicals that created this deadly eruption?
One was chloroacetate, the other was methylpyridine.
But surely chloroacetate and methylpyridine wouldn't have been stored near each other, let alone on the same shelf.
Hash the notion.
Then it must have been quite a trick to draw them both at the same time. You don't think it might have been intentional?
No, the bottles only showed the chemical markings. The general public wouldn't know what was inside.
You said he gave you a prescription. Do you still have it?
Yes, but I warn you, it's quite strange.
Is it the handwriting?
Actually, the handwriting is quite legible for a prescription.
It's not on a prescription form.
Most of the physicians I deal with just grab a scrap of butcher's paper and scribble away. No, the strange part's there. You see the doctor's name?
Hector M. O'Fly, M.S. Master of Surgery?
It's 17 years I've never laid eyes on a prescription from a surgeon, so I thought I'd better check the physician's registry. There's how Dr. O'Fly in the whole of London, or anywhere else I might add.
And what exactly are Bounds Ice Gels?
I thought it might be something from America. Well, it has the sound, but it's not a medicinal product of any kind.
So what is it?
A mystery.
Brother,
Mycroft?
where did you stay for lunch, Sherlock? The Diogenes prides itself on an inedible broth.
I haven't the time.
You desire my brain and nothing else?
What else is there?
Point. Begin, please. I'm taking a nap in 3 minutes.
What do you make of this?
Hector M. O'Fly, not a name to inspire diagnostic confidence.
What about the medicine?
Bounds Ice Gels. Sounds repulsive.
Scramble it the way we used to do in the nursery with the alphabet box. Bounds Ice Gels. Diogenes Club. Now the doctor's name, Hector M. O'Fly, M.S. Mycroft Holmes.
Who wrote this anagram?
A.C. Cross.
Means nothing to me. Who was a spy?
Thank you.
What's put you on to this, Sherlock?
There's a picture in the Daily Telegraph. Lists his occupation as a cultural attaché.
Come off, nothing more.
Then the manner of his death. December 24th of last year. Death by accidental asphyxiation.
Yes, these facts are known.
What facts are not?
Those facts are not known, which is why His Majesty's government employs spies. Cross is one of our best. Pity, dying as he did, singularly unbecoming such a swashbuckler.
Was his death assigned an investigative party?
The police looked into it. They found nothing to prove.
They didn't find this either. Cross had a piece of information he did not want to fall into the wrong hands. So, he wrote this anagram in an attempt to have it delivered to its intended recipient. You. The question is, what's the message?
We tested it for
The visible inks, heat, yes, all that. Appears to be half of an advertisement.
Rome Beach Hall, an Italian restaurant. An excitable one, given the exclamation.
Typeface and paper suggest a London printer. There's no water stains or soot, so it wasn't posted outdoors.
There's no blue on the reverse side, so it wasn't posted at all. Sherlock, are you investigating Ross's death?
Merely looking into it. Off the subject, did you know Admiral Messerly?
What do you know about Messer?
Other than the fact that he was crushed beneath the wheels of a train 2 nights ago in an accident as unbecoming as that which befell Mr. Cross, nothing.
Messerly's a delicate issue. He was at work on the design of the Navy's new battleship, the Deterrent, when his wife died of a heart attack this past winter.
Was Messerly's death assigned an investigative party?
It has. Point of fact, it's late for its nap.
May I help you? Or are you just looking?
Merely noting that Mr. George's suffering seems not to have ended. No black, no red.
Ah, do you mean these? Your concern for Mr. George's earthly travails does you credit, Mr. Holmes.
I thought it was against club rules to use a member's name from the outer world.
It is a privilege of my position. Besides, insofar as the rules are concerned, I'm quite certain I can persuade you to break them. In fact, I think I can make you want to live.
But then you lose interest in me, assuming as I do that your interest stems from my desire to embrace death. Eros and Thanatos, make for a potent mixture.
As long as the Eros comes first. Pardon me, gentlemen. I must conduct an interview before the meeting begins.
I apologize if my entrance was precipitous.
Not at all. Another moment, and the club secretary might have gotten her hands on this.
What is it?
On the face of it, it is a prescription which is not a prescription. In fact, it is a coded message letting us know that the suicide club has ambitions beyond these 4 walls. Watch that the coast is clear. I want to see if Mr. George is still among the living.
But the billiards have been returned. That signifies that the deed is done.
Last night I was able to put a mark on each of them with my ring before they went into the hat. I want to see if the mark is still there. Close examination of the red, and there's the mark. Look at the black. No mark.
So Mr. George is not dead.
No, but someone wants us to believe he is. There is a pattern at work here that is hidden from us. What do all the members have in common? Is it age? No. Is it nationality? No. Is it profession? No.
The only thing we have in common is the desire to die.
Mr. Williams sought death's door after watching a man's heart give out. Mr. Richards, after his wife died of a heart attack. Mr. Starr, how did your fiancée die?
Her heart.
Had she a condition?
And yet, Mr. Holmes, are you saying that we
Told you they would be here. Early as birds and thick as thieves.
Gentlemen, a new member joins us this evening. One with quite the urgent need. So the usual application process has been waived. May I introduce to you Mr. Johns. Mr. John, Mr. Henry,
Nothing good, sir.
Mr. Edwards,
Sir?
establishment you joined, I had to find a way in.
You must have been very convincing in your application.
I wept profusely.
Did the secretary explain the rules to you?
You mean the black ball, red ball business? Of course. It was a joke, right?
Let us begin.
When the meeting adjourns, leave immediately. Do not go home to Baker Street.
Okay.
Waterloo Bridge, Victoria Embankment, midnight.
Well done.
Fortunate number has been selected. Mr. Johns will now excuse himself. But Mr. Johns,
Yes.
do take the billiard with you.
Yes.
Mr. John, it's really quite simple. Just close your eyes and think of England.
It's a pleasure knowing all of you.
Second round, gentlemen. Billiards, please. Possesses the red billiard. You will follow Mr. Johns into the night and relieve his suffering. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Meeting adjourned.
You realize you put me in an impossible position.
My intention was to get us out of an impossible situation.
Well, what in it now? You have the black billiard?
Yes.
Give it to me.
Of course. Why?
Because I have to return it. The silver tray.
Holmes, what are we doing? Holmes!